panel of the day, last session of the day. Dave Newman from We Got Tickets and Sam Chapman from Edinburgh University, telling us all about the carbon assessment of ticketing delivery systems. This is the green ticket. Hey, not bad, eh? Punchy.
I guess it's been a pretty long day for you all, especially if you've been down in this. Have you been in this room all day? Yeah. Been in the bunker. Okay, all right. Well, let's. I have put a little treat in here to try and keep you paying attention. There is a theme running through this that's separate from the content. So first person to spot it, shout. Okay. Carbon assessment of ticketing delivery systems. So what do we mean by that? We're talking about looking at the delivery of 3 different methods of tickets. Paper tickets, by which I mean good old-fashioned printed ticket stock, stuck in an envelope, posted out to people, and then disposed of after the event. Print-at-home tickets, which have become more and more prevalent over the last 2 or 3 years, which is buying your tickets online, being sent or downloading a PDF or some other format, printing that out, and then turning up at the show, disposing of the piece of paper, and what we call paperless tickets, which is taking the paper completely out of the equation. So, like when you go to buy a ticket on EasyJet, and you just turn up and prove you are the person who bought that ticket, and you're checked in. Of course, they then go and print out a boarding card for you, but totally unnecessary. Which lasts about 20 yards or however long it is between the check-in desk and the gate. So that's what we've been looking at. So why have we commissioned this study? What was the point of this? Well, I wonder. Since 2000, when we first sold our ticket, we got tickets. We've only ever sold paperless tickets, and we've been merrily making unsubstantiated claims on our website. It's been a USP in all our sales literature, and we've stuck up this going green section on our site, which you won't see, but you'll see it. It illustrates what we think is the paper ticket and what is the paperless ticket. So amongst this text there, we were saying our system can drastically reduce the environmental impact of tickets. Completely unsubstantiated, we just felt it was right. No data to back this up, but we thought about 2 years ago that we should actually try and substantiate some of these claims. So, but it wasn't very easy. I spoke to Ben and to Claire and also to the team at Julie's Bicycle. We had a pretty clear idea about what we wanted to, what results we wanted to get, and we obviously hoped the results were close to our to what we were claiming. But actually, it was quite frustrating for us to not to be able to find a way to commission the study that we needed. So who could help? Who could help? We'd pretty much given up on this about, well, it must be almost about a year ago now, and we just figured, well, we'll just keep on saying what we've been saying. Nobody's questioned it, nobody's proved us wrong. So I'm sure a lot of truth becomes truth just because nobody disputes it. So, but then.
Oh, it's a bit quieter now. Yeah. I won't shout at you so much. Sorry, I was projecting. So we'd started something that we just couldn't finish. It was really frustrating. But you have to move on. There's tickets to be sold, stuff to do. But then, just about this time last year, I signed up for a Friends of the Earth cycle ride to Edinburgh. This is relevant, by the way. And here's a little bit of proof. And conveniently, it's a very low res picture, but you'll see me at the back there, and you'll see Sam on the side there. And that's proof, by the way. So there's quite a lot of time to fill, as you can imagine. It was a six-day trip to Edinburgh, and thankfully I could kind of keep up with Sam for most of the way. But strangely enough, we didn't actually start talking about what we do and various things until I think it was the last day, probably just after this photo was taken, before I got the hypothermia in wherever that god awful place was. Turns out Sam is doing a PhD at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, not at Edinburgh University.
Thanks.
Everywhere has 2 universities now, or 3, doesn't it? It's just I'm lost. So it was my fault that ended up in the literature, by the way. Sam was doing a PhD specialising in the carbon equivalent emissions of the various energy generating methods available. It's a quick summary, isn't it?
Very good.
Yeah, good. So I was on this last day. We were cycling along, trying to take our mind off the rain and the cold, and I was talking about the frustration that we've been having about trying to get this study commissioned and trying to actually get some of the figures to back up these claims. And Sam was like, well, I could probably do that. I did start something I couldn't finish. I don't mean the bike ride, because we did actually get there in the end. So we I guess probably about July last year, we swapped 2 or 3 emails, came down and we had a bit of a chat, and as things went on, this is what Sam did.
I haven't got any fancy slides, I'm afraid, but I'm just going to sort of talk through a bit about the study. My background, as Dave said, I'm currently doing a PhD carbon and life cycle assessments of renewable energy projects. Basically, I look at the materials and embedded materials and embedded carbon and energy in renewable energy systems. So, talking with Dave on the cycle ride, looking at paper, looking at materials seemed like a sensible sort of crossover for me. And so I began work with Dave, and as he mentioned, we started swapping emails, and it became very apparent that they had done preliminary work. And as I'm sure everyone would agree in the room, if you're working with a client who's got a bit of background on something, or they know a bit about it, it makes things so much easier. And already there was the motivation in Dave and the client to get this work done. So we had very quickly very good sort of specific data for me to work with, whether it was orders of tickets and number of tickets per order, which turned out to be 2.15 if anyone's interested, but this was specific data from We Got Tickets. And indeed I got very good specific data about their server use, because as an e-ticket solution, as an electronic ticket, it's purely done on a computer and a server, and that sort of information was sort of information I needed from them specifically. Mix that with a bit of UK specific data, such as paper production, disposal of paper, recycling of it, transport and electricity data. I started to frame the study and what I needed to get some results out. Of course, there was a few sort of reasoned assumptions along the way. I like to think I've been fully transparent in those, so they're all in the report that we've produced on this. And some of those assumptions were the sort of paper that you use for a ticket, because obviously, as you know, there's lots of different types of ticket out there. We made general assumptions, and already that sort of preliminary work had been going on at We Got Tickets about the density of paper and all sorts of sort of techie things, but an A4 paper that we use to print at home. Again, if anyone's interested, 80 GSM, grams per square metre of paper, things I didn't know until I did this sort of study. And such things as distances of an order, so the old postman and the using vehicles and everything else to get a ticket from a ticket company to the door. These are things you have to assume for a study like this, but because the nature of the study was a comparison, I felt we could make these assumptions, and sort of in discussion with Dave that these sort of assumptions were sort of warranted. There are a few sort of specific things that aren't included in the study, so inking of the tickets, holograms, sort of specific graphics of the tickets. They were fully beyond the realms of what I felt I could get decent information for. But by leaving those out, I still feel it's a conservative study because that would only add environmental impact to the ticket. And through basically using a database called EcoInvent database, that is the sort of European standard for environmental impacts, taking kilograms of a material and translating that into a carbon intensity, a carbon footprint. We managed to obtain this information for the production of paper, the de-ink, and which also included de-inking and recycling, common to the EU and UK. So while there wasn't included inking in the first process, I wanted to mention it was also included as a de-inking process. So again, it adds to a sort of conservative approach. So in the real situation, it can only be ever so slightly more, which I felt was a better assumption than the other way of assuming far more than was possibly true. And just on I've sworn today I won't mention the results yet, but paper and ticket production was hugely the largest contributor to the environmental impact in this study, as you might expect. And just to sort of frame the three approaches that we analysed, as Dave's mentioned, the sort of traditional approach covered the ticket production, the invoice production that you'd get in your envelope. Indeed, the envelope, again, there was an assumption made on the type and style of the envelope, which is all in the report, but I like to think it sort of modelled most types of envelope that you would get your tickets in. And finally, an email, because even with the traditional approach nowadays, every ticket company would still send you this confirmation email. The print at home one was the things covered were the A4 bit of paper that you've printed out at home. Again, I've assumed only one page. That could have been more, but it's conservative that it's only one page. And this email and server use that goes into generating the email. And finally, the We Got Ticket approach, which was purely this email production, which required me to know a bit about the server use at the company, and specifically the time that the server takes to generate this automatic email. Again, if anyone cares or is interested, it's sort of 0.18, so about a fifth of a second this server clicks out an automatic email. And basically, yeah, that was a method commonly used in sort of the digital invoicing sector, and that was the sort of method I adapted for this study. And really that was the sort of main framing. And the final process was a quick peer review from a colleague of mine called David Meek, who works at Green Energy Partners, just again sort of validation and check of the study. And I will hand back to Dave for the results.
Yes. I just want to mention that actually we're not press releasing this till Monday, so you're actually technically getting the first view of this here, well, apart from the people in the office I showed this to earlier. Seemed kind of fair. And I'll pick up later a little bit about what we're going to do to sort of back up this message and these results. As Sam mentioned, the full 23-page report, PDF, should be in your delegate packs or downloadable. I'm sure you've been told how to get all that stuff, or you will be after I shut up. Okay, all right. QR code, yeah. So that full report will be there. I guess this presentation can be too, or I can show you where it is online. You know, it's available. Should you be interested? Okay, I put this extra page in because I wasn't sure whether Sam was going to present some graphics on this. So ignore the big pause sign. It's not there for dramatic effect, although it is kind of working that way. So the results. Paper tickets. This is in the post, printed tickets. And it is to four decimal places for a reason. 7.2272 grams of carbon CO2 equivalent. Print at home tickets come out at 2.8272. Lots of 2s and 7s. And then the paperless version comes out at 0.0672. So you're not having to crunch the numbers in your head. That's basically the ratios of so a paper ticket is 107 times more environmentally costly than a paperless ticket. we weren't too surprised by that ratio. I guess the one that did surprise us was the print at home to the paperless, because that doesn't actually feel like that's just like one bit of the system being different. It's interesting. So, what difference does it make? Has anyone got the link yet? Oh dear, they're all Smith song titles. That's the last one. There were 2 or 3 more that I was going to shoehorn into the last section, but they were a bit tenuous. Okay, so that was the punchline. But anyway, so what does this actually mean? I mean, you know, we can look at numbers and we can go, yeah, well, that's obviously worse than that. But what does this mean? So I'm going to try and do a couple of comparisons so you can get your heads around these figures. So, the venue of the Lexingtons. Anyone know the Lexington in North London, near Angel? Yeah. Yes, your standard, putting them down. A pub venue. You know, every town's got one. This is one of our favourites. Around 200 capacity, as is the case with a number of venues of this size. Getting actual capacity figures is a little tricky because they tend to be a little elastic. Not accusing the Lexington of ever going over their limit, of course. And then let's stack that side by side with the O2 Arena, which we all know. So we've got a venue of 200 capacity, a venue of 20,000 capacity. A paper ticket show sold out. A sold out show at the Lexington done through paper tickets would actually be more costly to the environment than a paperless system at the O2 Arena. That's your dinky toy to your London bus comparison. Okay. Now, since we started this study, this process 2-3 years ago, or this idea, things have shifted a lot more to print at home. So let me throw another comparison in. Brixton Academy, capacity just under 5,000. Half the Lexington, about 120 capacity. Lexington show, 120 people in the room on print at home tickets would actually be more costly than a paperless ticket show at Brixton Academy, sold out. That's your 42 to the 1, basically. So, that's the results. What are we going to do about it? Now, no more Smith song titles. No more graphics, actually. This is an estimate. It's kind of tricky getting figures, but I sort of know what Ticketmaster and Stroke TicketWeb do each year. I sort of know what C-Tickets do. I sort of know what Ticketline do. I've totted up as a conservative estimate that within the entertainment industry, there's over 40 million tickets sold each year in the UK. Just as another, just to put that in perspective in terms of the tons of CO2 equivalent, that would be the equivalent of a London bus going round the world 5 times, for example. So we're not talking about, I mean, it sounds like a lot, but you know, it's not a, in itself, it's not something that's going to, you know, it's a drop in the ocean, but an ocean is made up of drops, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. We do about 2% of that 40 million. So us being paperless at the moment is not having a huge effect on that, on those numbers. We've done about 4 million tickets since we started in 2000. I wanted to get an idea of kind of what that would have cost if we were using other ticket methods, ticket delivery methods. And so if we'd gone for a print at home method, then it actually works out that those 4 million tickets, that would have kind of run our office for a year. Which it's just, I just wanted to try and get an idea of what this really meant. It's stacking up the figures is one thing, but actually knowing what it compares to something in the real world felt more tangible to me. So what I think should happen, I think the industry has moved from paper tickets to print at home, mainly for cost reasons. You know, the ticket companies are still charging the same booking fees. They're even charging you to print your ticket at home, which does baffle me. But if we can get the move away from print at home to purely paperless, and there's a whole number of issues that come in with that in terms of redemption systems on the door of venues, etc. But then the shift that we've had from paper tickets to print at home is just a pigeon step. But I think if we can go the whole way to a paperless system, then you know, I think that then we'll really see some benefits from that. What we're going to do now is actually push this message out, because we've also been conscious that although we are a paperless system, customers are still printing out their confirmation email because they're not necessarily 100% confident that they can just walk up to a venue, give their name, ID, and get into the show. So we've got two messages going out. We've got a message going out to all our clients, our promoters, our venue owners, event organisers, reinforcing the message that their customers don't have to bring a printed confirmation email. And then the parallel message to that to say to the customers, you don't need to bring your don't need to bring a printed confirmation email to the show. And that's what that's kind of coming out the back end of doing this report. We wanted to be sure of what we were saying. We are sure about it. We're now sure what we want to what the message should be to our customers, to our clients, but also to the ticketing industry in general. If you've got any questions, either for Sam in terms of drilling down more into the methods and the calculations, or just anything that this has thrown up, then fine. I won't be doing printouts of this presentation for you. Oh, sorry. One down the front as well afterwards. So.
You mentioned about ticket redemption. So, especially at festivals where you've got large numbers of people passing through a single point to get into to be accredited into the festival, are you working on any kind of systems that can help us with that, with when you're completely paperless? Because obviously it's very easy just to hand over a ticket stub or to have someone scan a barcode on the gate. Moves through very quickly. If you're having to look up people's names.
Well, if you're on block weekend, then scanning barcodes maybe isn't such a good
I'm
idea.
aware of those. I'm aware of those.
Might not be a good, but
yeah. But that happens at static venues as well. There's a lot of places to scan barcodes. Yeah. Look, I've been to 3 conferences this week. I've been scanned into all of them.
I think that there is a big issue attached with that. I don't think it's something that we as a company are going to solve, because we tend to work with the grassroots venues and the smaller venues. We do work with a number of larger festivals where we're one of the ticket outlets, but that tends to be a question of fitting in with how their setup is. So something like Field Day, people will come along, collect their tickets, literally walk 50 yards and hand their ticket in. You know, that piece of paper exists for yeah. I think that there are a number of ways you can look at dealing with this. Obviously, smart devices with near-field recognition possibly have a part to play, but that's going to require hardware and infrastructure across a site, whether that's a venue or a field with multiple entry points. I think there will be a solution if there's a willingness to move to it. We've seen that the O2 Arena with the Metallica show a few years ago ran a paperless show and ran it very successfully. When Radiohead did it last year, it didn't run so successfully because people couldn't. People were stuck with having to bring along their credit card or their debit card that they bought the tickets with 9 months ago, and of course cards expire, things change, you know. So I think that you need smooth entry point system, and you need a redemption system that's as quick as ripping or checking the legitimacy of a ticket and ripping the stub off. No, I haven't got the answer. Yeah. So, question down the front.
Actually, I have a few questions. This paper ticket, how much it's worse than paperless ticket?
Mm-hmm.
How this delivery goes? Because in Finland, where I'm from, and I have own ticketing company actually, and I think that mostly Finnish people book the ticket from our website and then go to kiosk and bring it. And I think that it's not so much worse than paperless ticket. We actually has 2 SMS ticket, and we have this barcode with SMS. So SMS and link go. I think this is paperless too, and we have sent them since 2007. But do you actually asking IDs for every customers in the door or credit card?
The way our system works is that someone essentially gives their name,
okay,
and the person on the door, it's up to them if they want that person to confirm their name. And that's the ticket holder, so somebody could...
And how much time it take with one customer?
Somewhere like the Lexington, you've got to get 200 people in the building. That's probably 80 ticket holders, 80 names on the list. You know, a matter of seconds to tick people off a list.
Okay.
But obviously, when there's 1,000 people,
it can take only 1.5 seconds when one customer when you check your ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is an amount per order rather than per customer, because you know, if I've bought 2 tickets or 4 tickets,
yeah,
you don't have to check everyone off the list.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I know the system works on the grassroots level. We have about 150 events on sale every day that use the system. So, but I know that when that scales up, then, you know, if you've got 500 names on a list,
yeah,
we have an electronic version of the system which
okay,
is much quicker in terms of you just start typing the person's name. When it comes to IDing people, then I think that's down to whether you think people are going to be trying to defraud the system. Obviously, when one name has been used, then it can't be used again. So if somebody is sharing their name with their friends, then if their friend comes in first, then they're not going to get in because that ticket's already been redeemed. We did a show about 3 years ago. The National did a fan club warm-up show before they played the Royal Albert Hall, and because they wanted the tickets only to go out to fan club members, and they didn't want any resale, they made it completely paperless, and we ended up doing the tickets for it. I won't explain how it came to us, but and there were a number of tickets that had been resold on eBay, which contravened the terms and conditions. So what we did a bit of detective work on the seller on eBay. People give away, you know, they use their username on eBay is used on forums, and you can kind of work out who they are and where they're based. And we just highlighted on the ticket list the people who we thought might have been the reseller, and just ID'd those people when they came in. So if somebody had bought the ticket from a reseller, and they couldn't prove that they were that person, then they didn't get in. So, you know, there are ways. It depends what you want to do with it, really. You know, if you want to ID everyone who's coming into the building, then I don't think you're really providing very good customer experience in the first place. You know, don't want to penalise the people who've coming to the show.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.